Welcome back to the Family Farms Podcast. I'm Justin, and I'm joined, as always, by my lovely wife, Lavery.
Hey!
Well, it only took me 6 episodes to finally mess up an upload deadline. And so bad that it's Monday when we normally record, and today was the day that I realized that I missed the upload deadline on Friday.
Okay, but you gotta cut yourself a little slack. 1, we lasted 6 weeks of doing this. 2, it was a holiday week.
No, see, I have it on here. Want to blame the holiday and being out of rhythm, but it's still my mistake, and excuses are silly and things like that. Like, yeah, you could make an excuse for it, but at the same time, no, I should have been in front of mine, and I just honestly didn't think about it at all that day. And so got to be better about thinking about it and things like that, because in a few weeks I'll be off for Christmas, and that'll be several podcast weeks that are different than normal. So just got to keep that top of mind and remember to actually do it. I was even up at the normal time pretty much on Friday, but I just completely missed that one. But I think it's going to be fine because we're going to just be able to use it as a buffer week. Yeah, mm-hmm. We're gonna wait and post it this Friday instead of, and then we'll have a week ahead than we have been having. Yeah. So instead of recording and uploading the same week, we'll record one week and upload the next week. So that'll just give ourselves a little bit of buffer time between episodes. But the other thing that was funny is that I realized it shortly after recording the last episode that we talked about how to prepare yourself for the headaches of Thanksgiving at the end of the podcast. Just reminding people, that it's not a big deal and just to overlook the little things.
But it was already going to
But it was going to post after Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. And now it's going to post a week after Thanksgiving. But all of that information can just be applied to Christmas. Yeah. Which is coming up faster than any of us ever expect.
Yes.
It is right around the corner. But we also were not able to do the garden bed like we'd planned to due to the weather.
Yeah.
Because, of course, it decided to get extremely windy and rain right when we wanted to do that work. So
yeah, so that didn't really work out as planned, but it's okay. It will happen. It's on the schedule. We just got to
find the time. The issue is, I wanted to do it tonight, and I went out there to start and to look at it and to think through everything I needed to do, and I'm like, I just don't have time with how much light's going to be available. Because by the time we get home and eat dinner and go out there, I've got an hour to an hour and a half
max
to try to do all that work before it gets dark. And I'm like, there's just no way. Mm-hmm. There's no way that all that's going to get done. So it's really got to find a weekend. And sadly, this weekend's not going to work. I say sadly, but at the same time, it's not a sadly thing. Mm-hmm. But Bree has her photo shoot this weekend. So obviously, I'm not going to be able to be out in the yard working while there are people at the house trying to take nice family pictures for Christmas.
I mean, you could, but it'd be a little awkward.
Yeah, I just wouldn't want to take away their moment by doing something like that. So we'll figure it out and we'll get there eventually. I mean, I do have the time coming off for Christmas, even though I prefer to not be doing like a lot of manual labor during that time.
Yeah.
It is an option.
Mm-hmm. But we'll make it work. It'll happen.
Our cat Hank also broke one of our bean sprouts this week.
Yes.
So that was worrisome. Thankfully, it seems to be doing fine.
Yes, it has sprouted more leaves and seems to be just going on about its business, even though it's got a 90-degree angle in it.
Yeah, I honestly didn't think it would come back, but it broke and it was laying to the side, and then it just immediately started growing back up towards the light. So it's got the will to live and to keep trying for another day. So we'll let it go and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, this is all an experiment anyway. So if it works, great. If not, okay. Not, I mean, 3 seeds out a bucket, like no big deal.
Yeah.
So we'll just see what happens. And I had some of my little sprouts don't seem to be going. I think it's the flower ones. I'm not having the best luck with the snapdragon seeds. Like they didn't do great outside for me. I don't know. Like I might just not be babying them enough.
They could have a certain germination temperature too.
Yeah.
I don't know if they maybe need to be colder or warmer to germinate. I mean, it's only going to be a max of 70 degrees in the house right now.
So I had little bitty baby sprouts in there, and now it seems they're all pretty much gone except for one. But other things are progressing. I'm happy with anything that's going on in there because this is all just a experiment.
Yeah, as we've talked about before, it's an experiment. So it's just nice to see them growing, but it just is amazing to me the resiliency of the plants because it's broke. Yeah, it's still growing. Mm-hmm. It's doing better than I thought it would do. So
like it's hanging on by a thread. So I don't know that if it continues to grow and actually puts on fruit, that it'll survive
Yeah,
that.
it'll probably break again. That's kind of what I
Yeah.
was thinking, but I'm interested to see what happens because it broke so young. I don't know if maybe it'll strengthen that spot again.
Yeah. If
I don't
it'll
know how
make a
that works.
callus or something and make that stronger instead of continuing to be weak.
Yeah, I just
I
don't know.
Yeah. We'll see what happens though.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what'll happen. Another thing this week is that you pretty much lived in the kitchen.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I was not looking forward to getting back in the kitchen today, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, so many factors put into that, but I was in the kitchen so much last week preparing for Thanksgiving, not only like for our family, but we prepared some treats for your coworkers. I say we, but I prepared some treats for your coworkers and I just was done. By the time I finished cooking Thursday morning for everything, I didn't even want to step back into the kitchen. Like, you had to take over and clean up
Yeah,
because
no,
I
it
was
was a
done.
lot, but it all paid off because everything was awesome.
Oh my gosh, it was so yummy.
And this is the first time that we smoked a turkey, a whole turkey. We
Yes.
tried samples and we smoked a ham, and I just can't recommend a pellet smoker enough. Like,
Yeah. Oh
it's
my
so
gosh.
easy and so delicious, and like it's a great way to make healthy food quickly and cheaply. And
Quickly.
I think, well, like to make that level of good food though,
Yeah.
quickly as far as like the time you actually spend doing it. Now it'll take a long time to smoke meat,
Yes.
but when
The
it comes to
preparation.
well, and like if you add up all the work you're putting into it, you just sit there. I mean, like people have
You
those
sit it and forget
Traegers.
it.
Like literally, the Traeger commercial is the guys on the golf course checking the app on his phone.
Yeah.
I'm not one to leave a fire burning in my backyard and then go somewhere else, but but you can work around the farm.
We barely leave the crock pot.
Yeah, it freaks me out. I don't like the idea of things burning down, and we almost had that happen this week, which was crazy.
God is good, and He kept His hand of protection on us. That's all.
Yeah,
I give it all to Him.
I'm very thankful. It could have been a lot worse of a Thanksgiving for us, and there's people that we know that it was a lot worse of a Thanksgiving for. So we do feel blessed that it worked out as it did. But to give more detail on that, we were in bed and we heard a noise, and I assumed because of the cat always running around. Only we've talked about this before, but the only time that he has energy, it seems like, is right before bed. And so he's out running around. I'm assuming he's knocked something over. Nothing.
It sounds like something hit.
Yeah. But it didn't sound like anything broke or anything spilt. So I'm like, I'm not going to worry about it. I'll check it out when I go in there. And honestly, by the time I came back in here to put the turkey in the fridge, because it needed to thaw a little bit more in the sink that night before we cooked it, I thought, I didn't even think about anything. I was just like, whatever. I had completely forgot about the noise, and I didn't notice anything out of place. So I came and I opened the fridge, and the light was off. I was like, darn it, that bulb must have went out. I don't know why that was my first thought, but it was. And so then I'm like, that seems weird. So I open the freezer and that side's out. So I know, okay, something's wrong. We've overloaded this circuit in the past because it's got so many outlets on the same circuit that run the fridge and the dishwasher. And then that's also where the microwave.
And the washing machine and the dryer.
No, washing machine and dryer are on a different circuit. They are.
I feel like.
No, they're not. Okay. They're on a different circuit, I promise.
Okay.
But the coffee pot, the microwave, the dishwasher, and the fridge are all on the same circuit. Oven's on a different one. Oh, okay. Remember, the oven still works.
Okay.
And so all those are on the same circuit. So we popped that circuit before, and so I thought, well, maybe that's what happened. So I go and flip the breaker, and it immediately tripped again. And so I happened to turn my head and look out, and I into the kitchen, and the outlet is like smoking. And so we made the bad decision to flip it more than one time, which you should never do. But it shot sparks out like it was bad.
Yeah. So what had happened was you saw that, you came back to me and said, we have major electrical problems. You need to come here and look at this. Yeah. So then I came out, and then you flipped it, and I saw the sparks and smoke, and was absolutely terrified. And I had to tell you to stand back. Yeah. Because I was like, you're standing too close to that because it's got some kind of issue. Yeah. So thankfully my dad is an electrician. That is his trade and what he's done my entire life. So I'm like, let's call my dad and just see. Like, I don't think he's going to get, like, I don't want him rushing out here tonight, but he'll know what to do, and we'll go from there on how to resolve this safely. Yeah. So we call him up, and he says, all right, just keep it shut off. Take your fridge, get an extension cord, plug it into a different outlet, across the way that's on a different circuit, and you'll be fine for the night. I'll come over tomorrow after I'm done working. And thankfully, he came over early that afternoon and took 2 seconds to cut those wires and tie them up and cap them off. And
I don't know if I'd say it was 2 seconds, but I like to call him because he is an electrician. I've been taught enough at work to know that I don't want to mess with electricity. And so I was out on that. But we didn't really know how bad it was until he pulled out. And basically, like, the whole outlet melted. Mm-hmm. I assume it could have only been shooting sparks back into the wall. So it's like, it truly is a miracle that the insulation didn't catch on fire. Mm-hmm. Even in that box that it's in.
Yep.
So we were just truly blessed. And it's funny because I didn't realize how bad it was. So my thought was, I'm more worried about this extension cord catching fire because extension cords are rated funny, and I don't know how much electricity this fridge is going to pull. Could this extension cord get hot and burn the house down? Not even thinking that we just survived the outlet potentially burning the house down. So
yeah, but Dad even had said, make sure it's one of those nice heavy duty.
Yeah, and we had and stuff. But still, so like, you never know because everything comes from China.
We were all a little worried still, but he came over and he was able to cut off that outlet. Like,
he bypassed it.
He bypassed it. Okay, I don't know the terminology.
Yeah.
Anyways, he took care of that and even added a GFCI outlet for us in the kitchen. The fridge is on that line, and it's not preferred, but it'll help us in the event that something has to happen, because now that we didn't have a
GFCI before, and that's extremely dangerous anyway. Yeah. So just having that makes a big difference. The fridge could trip it, but it hasn't yet, so I doubt that's going to be a problem. Yeah. If it was going to be a problem, we would have known it by now. The only issue is that sometimes the newer fridges have a different motor, and the frequency of that motor it fluctuates the voltage, and so that's what a GFCI looks for, and that's when the GFCI trips. But I would rather have the fridge on it and the potential that it trips every once in a while than not have that next to a sink where there's outlets. Like that it's not safe.
So. Well, in this, like, I asked my dad, why did this happen? Like, this outlet is sitting behind like the top of our stove. So maybe in all of the cooking, something splashed up into it and, made that happen. I don't know. He said it was most likely because it's an older outlet and it just went bad. It had been getting hot for a while and just finally blew. So now we have to replace all the outlets in the house.
Yeah, I'm still not 100% that it was just because it was old. I think it was so dirty that I think that it had stuff in it, and that's what caused it to get hot. I mean, I'm not
dirty because I didn't clean it. It was dirty when we.
It was in a horrible spot. I mean, it's on a backsplash. A backsplash is there to catch things that pop up off the stove, and things are going into an outlet. You're not going to clean an outlet like you would clean the wall.
Yeah, you're not going to scrub it and get in there and really. But good news is that I've not had a chance to tell you. From when my brother was at my mom's house, there's a box of outlets and covers and all that jazz and even light switches there that she's going to check on and bring to us.
Oh, that'll be nice.
So that'll save us a little bit of money.
Yeah. I still don't like playing with electricity, though.
No, yeah. We might just still have Dad pop over.
Yeah. I wanted to give a quick update on our Angora Rabbit Rose because I think the weekly brushing has really made an impact on her, just like her grooming. Or it seems to be getting easier. Yes. Like she seems to be a lot better with us. Yeah. Even than the other rabbits that we've had longer now, just because I think that forced interaction on a more regular basis has just better fostered that relationship. She still wants to try to bite me every once in a while, but I get it.
She's a little feisty, but not in a bad way. Like playful, feisty. Yeah.
Well, you named her after a golden girl, so that's kind of to be expected, right? That's kind of their thing. I can't even watch that show. Like, you always think about, oh, but that's a good show, and you watch it like, oh, this is not wholesome. But I think it's getting better. I did have a close call I didn't tell you about. I think I kind of mentioned to you that my hand got dirty because I slipped, but I was slipped holding Rose.
Oh.
And I didn't, throw her or drop her or fall on her, but when I hit the ground, I did let go of her, and so she was on the ground outside of even the chicken run.
Ooh.
And thankfully she just kind of hung out next to me before I could catch my bearings. But yeah, that was nerve-wracking.
Oh, do you want to also tell about the other
No,
thing?
we didn't need to get into that. But so I slipped taking her back because of the whole plan to not get the leaves gone. The leaves are very slick, and so It's become a challenge just to walk around out there.
Yeah, you have to follow the sidewalk and go down the shed pathway and then zip over. Otherwise, you're just gonna fall out on your bottom.
Mm-hmm. And then the biggest recommendation that I can give for people who are grooming Angoras or just for people in general is the duck lint brush.
Yes.
It is the best item that we've ever purchased. Like I can't describe how well this works.
It is amazing. Like, I don't know why disposable lint brushes are a thing because of how amazing this is. Like, why did this go out?
It works better.
Like
it takes me less time to get even the crazy wool from the rabbit or any kind of stuff that's on a shirt. I grab it, I just brush it down a couple times, everything's gone.
Yeah.
I swipe it with my hand the other way, all the stuff comes off and I throw it in the trash can.
Yeah. I don't know why disposable ones were ever made.
Yeah, I mean this is reusable and it's zero waste.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's the best of all worlds.
Yes.
It is shaped and looks like a mallard duck, which is weird, and I don't understand why that's the only one that I've been able to find because I searched lint brush and some weird newer products came up, and then I searched duck lint brush and found the exact one that we have, which you bought at an antique store.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I thought maybe this isn't actually older.
Yeah.
But then upon doing that research, there are a lot of them on Etsy, and with all of them have the keywords like vintage and all these different things. But I'll tell you what, I don't care if it's vintage or not, it works.
Yep.
And I highly recommend getting one, even if you don't have Angoras, just if you have animals that are getting fur on things or just, you get lint out of the dryer.
Yeah, you just a normal person, like you pick up lint anywhere. But like I had found that and got it for you as a present because you like ducks. Like there's certain little figurines and just knick-knacky stuff.
I like animals, but ducks seem to be a more common and unique little trinkety type thing to have around the house as decoration. We have the quail.
Yep, we got 2 little brass quail. We have some duck bookends, brass duck bookends that we've got on display
and then
in our
my really
living
cool
room.
wooden pearl duck.
And then the wooden pearl and brass duck.
But they don't
looking.
I feel like we see ducks everywhere.
Yeah.
But you don't see like quail very often, or like you'll see like a pheasant, but those phaesant ones are very expensive.
Yes.
And like I just think
then you see lots of eagles and like yes, go weird. America, but
that's also a giant bird to have.
Yeah.
They're just like I think that
huge statement.
The ducks are just a lot easier to find, so that's why I gravitate towards them more at the store because you see them.
Yeah. So like I saw that and noticed it was a lint brush and I was like, this is great. It's the best of all the world. It's like
but I didn't expect it to work that well. I expected it to be like a novelty thing, but it works better than the roller lint brushes because the roller lint brush gets full and it doesn't even pull anymore.
Yeah.
I've never even had that one get so full that it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing that I'll say is it's directional, and so you have to brush it against yourself to get it to work because it kind of like lifts up the fabric that's on it. But if you brush it the other way, all the lint comes off on your shirt. Not a big deal because you just flip it around and you brush it the other way.
Yeah.
But in a moment, you're like, what did I just do?
But yeah, that's been one of my favorite gifts for you.
Yeah.
Just because it's been such a great blessing.
Like if I'd have known about it sooner, we'd have had one sooner.
Yeah.
Because it's like that. It makes so much more sense, especially because you're not spending money all the time. Like I think I saw some of them that were like $15 to $20.
Yeah, I spent like $5.
Yeah, but it's worth $15 to $20 if you never have to replace it.
Exactly.
Like one time and you're good. That's the way to go. I kind of wish there were other animals because I thought about buying them for people, and I don't think as many people would be into the duck as they would be into the like a bunny or something. I thought a bunny would be funny because how many people have duck lint on them?
Yeah.
Like, or is that even a thing? You know what I mean? Like you're not normally trying to get duck fur or feathered fur. You're not normally trying to get duck feathers out of your shirt. But like if you have a rabbit or a dog or something like that, like if they were shaped like that and the same material, that would be pretty funny. Or a cat, whatever.
Yeah, just whatever animal. That would be really funny. Maybe we should tweak the wording search.
Maybe we should take this off the internet and we'll start making them.
Oh my goodness.
We're going to have to edit this whole section out of the podcast. No.
Rewind.
Yeah, you're not stealing our idea. That's patented. Family Farms.
We call dibs.
Copyright 2022.
Dibs.
No, but I just think it's really cool and something, especially like if you're dealing on farms, because like for us, I mean, obviously, if somebody's like a full-time farmer, you're not really worried about your clothes being dirty most of the time.
Because you're just going to go out and get dirty more.
Yeah, but at the same time, sometimes you're going to go somewhere nice. Sometimes you're going to be at church and you don't want lint on you. And I don't know how it happens, but before we had animals, when we were renting and we couldn't have animals, somehow there would be clothes that I never wore to my parents' house that had dog hair on them. And like the dog hair, I find that dog hair still. That dog's not even alive anymore.
Yep.
And I'll find his dog hair because it was white. But I don't ever notice Rory's on our clothes, which is just bizarre to me.
We wear a lot of dark clothes.
Still, I'm wearing red right now. There's nothing on me, and she wallowed on me earlier. I think it's either the type of fur or something.
Her fur might be heavier.
It is heavy because it's just always all over the floor.
Yes. I don't think it has a chance to really stick to us too much.
Yeah. But now I kind of want to move on to the real subject of this podcast, the title subject, the reason that you are here. And that is that I believe quail are a better option for most people than chickens. Or to put it simply, quail are better than chickens. That's probably why I'm going to name this podcast. I'm not sure if Brie agrees with me, but she doesn't pick the topics or the titles, and I get to lead this, and so that's what it's going to be.
I'm just along for the ride, but I mean, overall, I probably would have to agree.
Yeah.
I mean, they're less work, they're smaller, and the nutritional value of their eggs is so much greater.
Well, without looking at my notes, you've covered all the main topics that we're going to get into in just a second. But I do want to say, if I had it my way, and this was the way that I was trying to get it to be with before, but we also looked into the chicken coop. But I probably wouldn't have chickens. Even at this point, I wouldn't have chickens as like the egg source or even maybe a meat source or like my animal of choice on the farm as far as like a bird is concerned, as far as poultry, I guess, is concerned. I wouldn't have chickens. Now, I think I would still have chickens, obviously, just because I like chickens and they're kind of fun to walk around. But if I could only have one bird, chickens or quail, I would choose the quail over them every time, regardless of the amount of space that I have. Even though space is a big key component of quail, I think the quail are better than the chickens. One of the biggest reasons for this is because almost anybody can own quail. It's not really an issue for people who live on like true farms with acreage and they're outside of the city and all that kind of stuff because you can pretty much have any animal you want because you're unrestricted.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people who don't live that way. And sadly, more and more people are not going to be able to live that way because of how developments are popping up everywhere.
Yes.
But quail are one of the few birds that you could have almost anywhere. And so if you wanted to start raising your own food, this is important.
Yeah.
Because a lot of places you can't have chickens.
Yeah.
And you especially can't have roosters.
Yeah.
In almost all cities nowadays. Now, our city is a little bit different. It only becomes a problem if you are getting noise complaints filed against you by other people. Yeah. Which it doesn't seem to matter because they're getting called about dogs all the time and they're not doing anything about that. But
that's another story for another day.
Yes. But no, anybody can own quail because most HOAs don't mention anything about quail. And
they just kind of slide under the radar.
They're not technically normally considered a farm animal. Yeah. And so that gives you another way to slide past. If your thing says no farm animals, well, technically quail are a game bird. Yeah. And so you can get away on that. Most people don't know what a quail sounds like. Yeah. And a quail don't make that much noise. No. Out of the 18 that we've only had one that was extremely noisy and kind of riled the others up. And he had problems because he had been attacked by the other quail. We had a bad ratio of males because we didn't realize that they were males. And he had some issues and he ended up going blind. And I think that caused part of the reason that he was loud, but we just had to cull him. And ever since then, we've not had any issues with noise, even from the roosters. Everybody's been relatively quiet. And maybe every once in a while you hear something. But the thing is that it's kind of a pleasant sound. Yeah. And most people wouldn't recognize what the sound is.
No, they would just think it's one of the wild birds. Like, because we have so many different birds flying around here. Like we've seen the little finches, we've seen robins and doves even. Like we've seen all sorts of birds in our little area. So someone would just be like, oh, well, that's just a little bird flying around making a bunch of noise.
Yeah. And then at the same time, like we mentioned size earlier, we're not going to go deep into size right now, but because of the size requirements of them, you can keep them almost anywhere. There's a guy in New York City and like Brooklyn, I think, that keeps quail because he wasn't allowed to have chickens, but wanted to be able to raise his own eggs. And so he does that. And there's also people that keep them on their apartment balconies. which I always that was pretty weird. Now that's going to require some serious cleaning.
Yes.
Because that smell, like quail are going to smell bad. Like rabbits, no smell. Quail have a smell if they're in a closed-in space.
Yes.
So that's going to require some regular cleaning, especially if it's on your balcony in an apartment. But it can be done.
Yeah. You just have to
be a way to
be aware of the cleaning requirements.
And the way to have your own protein source right there on your apartment balcony, especially if you're getting ready to move but want to go ahead and get your foot wet into that. Also, some people keep them in their like basements or garages. Basement would be a little weird on me, but garage I could understand. But they'll keep them in different things like that because they can get them to lay year round with additional light sources and things. And those hatching time cages, which are worth looking up, you can Google hatching time, and you'll find their cages are very good, especially if you're going to keep the animals in a carport or something like that, or a basement garage situation. But you can have a bunch of birds in a place like that, and no one's ever going to know when you have them. Like you could live in the strictest HOA in the world and have 20 quail in your garage, and nobody would be the wiser because you're not going to be able to hear them at all outside. I think another reason that almost anybody can own quail is because they're like the best beginner farm animal. And I know that I said they weren't farm animals, but in the context of people owning them, they're basically a farm animal.
Yeah.
But they're super easy. I mean, like
they really are. And like I wasn't for them at first. I personally hadn't dealt with any farm animals as an adult or whatever. Like as a kid, there were a couple farm animals running around here and there, different periods of my life, but I never had to take care of them. I didn't know. I was like, I don't want any part of this. I put this all on you. If you want them, you get them, you take care of them, all that. But they've really been so easy. Like
I think you can get away with quail being like checked on once a day. And chickens are going to require at least twice a day.
Yep.
And the chickens make their water dirty. They make their feed dirty.
Yep.
Their stuff's all outside and like not covered in any way most of the time. They're feed and water. So then if it rains, you got to clean those things out or find a solution that a lot of times is very expensive.
Yeah.
Then it's just there's so much that compiles with chickens.
Yeah.
In the idea of taking care of them on a daily basis, to where the quail, like we can fill their water up and their food up one time and they're good. And this time of year, because it's not hot and they're not drinking as much water and they're not eating as much, we could probably do it every other day.
Yeah.
I don't really like to do that. I'd rather go and check on them every day and just make sure everybody's good and everything's okay.
Yeah.
But they're super easy. Like it's once a day. And the startup costs are super cheap.
Yeah.
On that same vein of things is like you could buy a smaller hutch than we have.
Yeah.
You could buy just a small little area for them and a feeder and a waterer, and you probably could be into quail. If you're going to build your own thing, you could probably spend $150 and have a decent amount of quail and, be ready to go. With chickens, you're going to spend a lot more than that.
Yes.
Because they're going to need a run. They're going to need a coop. They're going to need specialized feeders and waterers. And then if you buy them as chicks, you've got to get a whole other set of housing and feeders and waterers for all that raising time, and a special food. They've got to be on starter, which the quail would too if you buy them young enough.
Yeah.
But the quail don't need heat as long, which we're going to get into that in a second. But that just means that that's less expense that you have to pay if you can get them at the right time, which is what we were able to do. Yeah. And that's why it was a big reason that I pulled for the quail, is because we didn't have to buy a heat lamp and we didn't have to do a brooder and all these different things. We could just get the quail and immediately put them outside, and they're going to start laying pretty fast.
A little side note, you can buy adult chickens and not have to have the heat lamps and things and stuff like that. And that's what we did. But they're going to be older and
you don't know as much about them.
Yeah.
And the chickens,
they're not going to be as friendly.
Yeah. But an adult chicken's like what, $15?
Yeah.
That's what we were paying for most of them.
15 to $20.
And an adult quail is like $4 or $5. So it makes an adult, or you might not say an adult, but a quail that's ready to go outside and it'll be laying.
Adolescent.
Yeah. A quail that no longer needs an additional heat source and is going to be ready to lay in just a few weeks will be like $5 or $6.
Yeah.
Compared to $15 for a chicken of the same, age and readiness. We mentioned that they were low noise. The thing is you can keep the roosters and the hens with a low amount of noise, meaning that you can have your own breeding program no matter where that you live.
Now, they're not one to go broody, so you'll have to take the eggs out and hatch them yourself through an incubator and all that jazz. But
a lot of chicken breeds aren't either.
Yeah.
It just depends on the breed of chicken, how broody they're going to be, and if they're how
But
many
you can
eggs
have
they're gonna
fertilized eggs.
Yeah.
And be ready to hatch
in a place
them.
that you wouldn't be able to have a rooster fertilizing the eggs of your chickens, right? And so that's a whole other benefit is being able to have both, and that's just not something that people can do because pretty much every rooster is going to crow.
Yeah.
They're going to crow a lot, and they're going to crow loud. There's not. I've tried to do the research because I like the idea of having a rooster, but there's not really a quiet option when it comes to roosters. They're just all pretty well.
Yeah.
Now, some people will say that mine's quiet, but then you go and search that breed with other people, and they're like, yeah, but it's still a rooster.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's all about perspective, and so depending on where you live, in a lot of places you can't have a rooster.
I'll have to say, like, the alpha of anything is probably going to be a little loud anyways, because right now our chickens, the Big Bertha, the main girl, she's a little noisy.
Yeah, like if she's not happy, which means that it's Saturday and we slept in and didn't let her out right away, you can hear her in the house.
Yeah.
Normally she's not making enough noise to hear her anywhere. But yeah, you can, if she's mad, you'll know it. But the quail are never mad. They're never, like, if you go down there.
They get excited when you come see them.
Yeah, they'll get excited and they'll make some noise, but it's super light. Like as soon as you were to walk away, if you were more than 10 feet away, you would barely hear them because they're not that loud.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just a great bonus of an animal that's not that noisy. You might be somebody who lives on a farm and is like, gosh, these chickens don't shut up. Wish I could still have eggs and have something that's not that loud.
We've got a solution for you.
Now, I don't know what other animals you would plan to raise besides rabbits and quail that are going to be quiet. Because cows, goats, sheep, anything, ducks, geese, all of these animals are loud.
Yep.
The quietest farm animals you're going to get turn out to be rabbits
and quail.
From what I'm able to tell. There are certain breeds of ducks and chickens that are supposedly quiet. Sadly, the quietest ducks are the ones that have the ability to fly away, which is just kind of ironic. And then the quietest chickens, like I've not had much experience with them, but everybody says the same thing. They're quiet unless they get upset. Well, you know, they're not always going to be happy. They're going to want you to do something.
Life happens. Not everyone's going to be happy all the time.
Yeah. And so chickens also require 10 square feet of outdoor space per bird and 12 inches per bird of roost space in the coop. That number could be lower or higher depending on what resources you look at. That's just a good average. But when you start thinking about it, that's a pretty good amount of space for the animals to live in. And so the bigger the coop, the bigger the run, the more the expense is going to be. So the more birds you add, the more it's going to be. And depending on how many eggs your family eats should be the amount of chickens that you have. If you eat 4 eggs every day, then you need 4 hens. If you only eat eggs every couple days, then you can get away with less. If your family eats more eggs, I know a guy that like on Saturdays, his family pound like a dozen eggs, which I just can't fathom. And it's 2 adults and 2 children that are both like under 8 years old. So I just don't know how they're eating that many eggs. But if you're that family, you're going to need more chickens. And the more chickens you get, the more space that you're going to need. But the quail, they only require like half a square foot of space, and they don't require roosting space. It's all the same thing. And so you can have quail in a pretty small area and I think we have 6, our goal, it's changed because of getting extra males or whatever, but our goal in our hutch, which is I think like 6 foot wide by 6 foot tall. And that's broken in half, so then that would mean that their pen is like 3 foot wide. And so it's probably another 1.5 foot deep. I'm not sure. But so we've got 6 quail in that space. And then they also have a little like hide box that they can get on top of, which adds more space for them. All in all, though, quail allow you to have more birds in less amount of space than you're going to be able to have with chickens. Now, in our case, we have 4 compartments and it's stacked. It's a stacked hutch. So then you get to double the space just by having, birds on top of birds. You could even have it triple, like whatever you want to build or buy. You're going to be able to have a lot of birds in a small amount of space.
This hutch just worked out so perfect for us because of how big our dog is. It keeps them just above her head. So I love it. If we end up with more quail, I would want to build something just like this. And it was the design that we were looking at in the first place, pretty much.
It worked out really well because we were able to find it on Craigslist for basically what you'd pay to buy the materials. So I was like, this would be dumb to not just go ahead and buy it done. Instead of doing the headache of trying to build it. But the thing
especially since we're novice builders.
The thing that played the big role in it, though, when we got it, with what you were saying about the dog, is that we didn't have it in the chicken run. And so she could just go up there to him anytime when she was out in the yard.
And she's very curious and very loving. She is.
Overly.
But she's a giant dog.
Yeah.
Like,
but in our case, we could have 24 quail,
mm-hmm.
20 of which those would be hens and 4 of them roosters, because one quail can service 5. One rooster can service 5 hens effectively. So you'll get all fertilized eggs. But that would provide you 20 eggs a day or 140 eggs a week. Mm-hmm. And that's, obviously those are the times in like the summer months. And they're pretty on it. They're going to lay an egg a day when it's the summertime. But that would mean that you would get probably like 60. You get 6,000 eggs a year because they'll lay about 300 eggs each a year.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good number. I did the math, and that comes out to like 7 chickens.
Wow. I was just about to do that math.
Yeah. So it comes out to being about 7 chickens. And to have 7 chickens, then you need about 70 square feet of space. That's a good size
a good chunk
run.
of land.
Like, I didn't look at the layout of that, but 70 square feet is going to be a decent sized run. So that's supplies and fencing and different materials. When you could do the quail for, a small fraction of the cost of what it would cost you to do the chickens of the same magnitude. Now, and I did that math different too. So 6,000 quail eggs, but I equated that to what it would be in chicken eggs. Yeah. So that would be about 2,000 chicken eggs, because one chicken egg equates to about 3 quail eggs.
Yes.
Because obviously they're smaller birds, they're going to lay smaller eggs.
Yeah. It's just, that's how it is.
But those eggs are absolutely amazing. For the most part, these points that we've been on so far, size, ease of care, and even like noise and things like that, have all been focused to people who maybe aren't on farms.
Yeah.
Because people on farms obviously aren't normally, worried about that. I will say quickly that the ease of care thing makes a big deal, because if you're just after eggs, you don't want, like, if you're not interested in chickens, and you just want eggs, and you're actually more focused on your goats or your other animals, having the quail would give you more time to focus on other chores throughout the day.
Yep.
So you may be able to replace your chickens with quail and not have to put in the same amount of work that you were having to put in with the chickens before.
Or maybe you just want to continue to expand your farm and you want to add in another poultry item or whatever that doesn't require a ton of work. Quail.
Yeah, 100%. But I just think that my point is falling under the idea of, like, if you are using chickens for the protein source, for the eggs, but you're not in love with chickens, and you'd rather devote the time that you spend on your chickens to another animal, you can still get great eggs and a bunch of eggs for so much less work with quail. And the eggs are absolutely awesome. They, my mind went blank there for a second, but they're primarily, the eggs are better in many ways than chicken eggs. Yeah. And so
they're more nutritionally dense.
Yes. So they contain more fat and protein, good fat. They contain more like omega-3 fat, which is the fat that you want. That's found like fish and different things like that. And protein by weight than a chicken egg. They contain double the iron and riboflavin than a chicken egg, and 1/3 more vitamin B12 than chicken eggs. Yep. The other thing is that, according to some studies and beliefs and things like that, they're believed to reduce your risk of anemia. They're able to balance your cholesterol because there's so many good fatty acids in the egg. They boost immunity, and so that also goes into allergies. A lot of people believe that quail eggs have a certain a lot of people believe quail eggs will help you with your allergies because they have a certain compound that is used to make allergy medicine. Yeah. And so by just eating, that's not found in chicken eggs. And so by eating quail eggs, you're getting one part of allergy medicine just in your regular diet. That occurs
naturally and is good for you, unlike a lot of stuff that's put in other things.
Yeah, they're also believed to increase energy, boost your metabolism. They have so much vitamin A that people think that they could help improve your vision. That's what they say about carrots. I have a hard time understanding how that works. As somebody who wears glasses, I don't think I could eat enough eggs and carrots to ever be able to not wear glasses anymore.
We should do a study.
Yeah, we should figure that. How many eggs and carrots does it take to not have to wear glasses anymore? Yeah, I don't know.
As someone who's legally blind,
pretty much, right? Glasses. Yeah, they weren't gonna let me drive one time because my contacts weren't like in my eye right, and I couldn't see. And they're like, "Do you have your glasses? Because we're not gonna be able to pass you on this." I I feel ridiculous at work because they make me do the eye test without my glasses, or they used to. They haven't done it anymore. But it's like, no, guys, I can't. It doesn't work.
See.
Thankfully, I'm not wearing like magnifying glasses, but it looks bad. Like it's just I can't see anything. But so we mentioned that quail eggs, 3 eggs equal to 1 chicken egg.
Mm-hmm.
But with the production numbers discussed, it's not really a big deal. You could have 7 chickens, or you could have 20 quail, and the 20 quail are going to be quieter, cleaner, and easier to take care of. So it's it's apples to apples.
Yeah.
And then quail eggs can be used just like chicken eggs in pretty much every way.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Let me tell you, if you bake, the quail egg is far superior. Far, far superior. And like I, again, was against the quail. I didn't want to eat the quail eggs. I didn't want anything to do with them. I'm a main 3 kind of girl. I want chicken, beef, pork. That's it. Like, I barely tried bison, and that was a really far stretch for me, but that's amazing too. Just tossing that out there. You got to step out of
your boundaries. You've been convinced by consumer food and these methods to mass produce food that these are the things you should be eating when there are so many better options out there. And quail are a great example.
Yes, they are. Everything that like I would use a chicken egg for, I've put substitute quail eggs in, and it's been so amazing. Like my pumpkin pie, to die for. Like I don't like pumpkin pie, but that's a good pumpkin pie. A lot of factors will toss into that because it was completely from scratch. But I am completely convinced that the quail eggs add into that. Because even when I do my banana bread, if I do a chicken egg versus quail eggs, you taste the difference.
I think you're getting more yolk, right? Like when you really think about it. When you instead of white. So I mean, obviously, everybody would rather have the yolk.
It's a much richer,
but it's a better yolk for you. You know, and it's got more nutrition per ounce than a chicken egg does.
And they make adorable little fried eggs that are great for just popping and on the go. They make adorable little deviled eggs that taste amazing.
They're very difficult to make, the little deviled eggs, but they are cool.
Yes, I learned a fun little trick about cutting the eggs for deviled eggs and stuff that I'm gonna have to try out at some point, I guess in the spring when we start getting more eggs again.
Yeah, sad, right?
Because I'm not gonna do it on the commercial eggs.
I even think though that they taste better than our own farm chicken eggs.
Yeah.
So from the moment I tried them, I was like, this is really good, and I've liked them more than I have liked even our own chicken eggs. And you know, now there are other eggs out there that people do say are better. Like duck eggs have a lot of nutrients as well. Bree says she's not going to try that. I think she'd like it after all this discussion about how she didn't like the other thing. But duck eggs are bigger than chicken eggs, so then it's a different ratio, obviously. But they are, you know, I think that quail eggs are better personally. Like they just taste better to me. The nutrition facts are there. You can look it up for yourself. Like they are known to be better for you than chicken eggs.
And for all the wives being dragged into farming and whatnot, if you're not completely convinced, these little eggs are so tiny and so cute, and they're just great to look at.
And you can even get them that lay blue eggs, which I'm pretty interested in. That's going to be something I want to try to get.
What's funny to me is our eggs currently, when you crack them, cut them open with the little scissors, whatever, the inside's kind of blue.
Yeah.
Like there is that blue tint to them, but they're beautiful little speckled eggs. They come in all these different shades, and that's just from the 2 breeds that we have. Like the shades just range. We had a green egg one time with speckles. That was so cute.
Yeah.
Loved it.
It's weird because I didn't think that you'd get much variation, but there's like, sometimes have little speckles, sometimes the standard looking quail egg, but they all taste the same. Yeah. So I don't know. But
I mean, if you watch this on YouTube, maybe Justin will pop up one of the pictures that I took of the quail eggs, and you can kind of see, or you just Google it.
Yeah, I'd say Google it because I'm not going to do that. We're 43 minutes in. I'm not searching that out. But no, and I think that a lot of people would really like quail eggs better. Everybody that we've given them to likes them better. But the reason that a lot of people don't eat...
one person didn't, but to each their own.
Yeah, that was like, one person said they didn't like them, and I don't know why that was. Yeah. Like she didn't really have a good reason why. Maybe she doesn't even like chicken eggs.
Yeah,
who knows? But I think that a lot of people don't eat them because they're more expensive. But if you're raising them yourself, they're not more expensive. And that's the thing, though, is that's the key to remember is that quail eggs can be more expensive because they're smaller. But the thing to remember is that if you are a farm business, this could be a great opportunity for you. The market's not saturated with quail eggs like it is chicken eggs. I mean, every person at the farmer's market is selling their farm-raised chicken eggs because every person that goes to the farmer's market pretty much has chickens. So they're going to try to offload their extra eggs, right? But not as many people are selling quail eggs. So that's a great, entry level into the market. And people that are in that environment are searching for unique and healthier alternatives to food already, right? And so it's not going to be a hard sell to sell somebody at the farmer's market quail eggs. Selling your friends on it turns out can be a little bit difficult because they've never heard it before and they're not as trusting and like they're just normal people.
They're a main three kind of people.
They're not crunchy. And so, they're not as into that idea. But people at the farmer's market are looking for those things. And I think that would be a great option. And still so little space to get so many eggs.
Yeah.
If you know what balut is, people sell those eggs. I don't want to talk about it. It's kind of gross to me. But that's even more money in those eggs. Asian people like that from like those kind of markets. You can sell those eggs for even more money. I know that there's a guy on YouTube. It's like Cortex Corner, which the quail are like jumbo Cortex quail. And that's one of the ways that he sells his and makes a lot of money off of his quail eggs. But that's a whole process and kind of gross to me. So, but to each their own, you can look that up and figure it out. I think it's called balut if you're interested in it.
Just
but
ignore that.
The other thing is that the hatching eggs can also be sold for $1 per egg. I don't know what chicken hatching eggs normally sell for, but $1 egg seems pretty good when you're talking about $12 a dozen and you're getting 20 eggs a day potentially or more. That's a pretty great number. And I don't see people on Craigslist often posting eggs for sale, like chicken hatching eggs for sale. Yeah. But I do see a good number of quail ones, and those ads come up quick and they go down quick. So you know that people are being able to sell the eggs that they have available.
Yeah.
Another great thing about quail is that they hatch out in about 18 days. That is comparable to chickens. A lot of chickens hatch out in 21 days. However, the quail will lay much sooner than chicken will.
Yeah.
So a quail will lay anywhere between 8 to 12 weeks. People tell you 8 weeks all over the internet. We didn't experience that, and the guy that we bought them from was like, I wouldn't expect 8 weeks. So I think we bought ours at about 6 weeks. We were hopeful that we would get to 8 weeks and they would lay, and I think it was closer to like 4 or 5 weeks after that. So they were probably 10 to 12 weeks is when they laid. But people swear that you can get them to lay in 8 weeks, and I don't know anything about that.
Maybe it's a certain breed of them. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the guy that I purchased them from was like, expect 12 weeks. You might get 10. Yeah. You might, but expect for it to happen at 12 weeks.
But chickens will take anywhere between 18 and 22 weeks. So you're talking about like almost a 2.5 month difference potentially on how long it's going to take you to get eggs.
We bought our little Polish chicken.
Yeah, she's not laying the first egg.
She's not laid.
She's not the best example because they're not really like egg laying chickens. She was just something cool.
She was a fun one.
Yeah, but because I mean these quail lay 300 eggs a year. We talked about that's not a rare number in chickens. There are a bunch of varieties of chickens that can lay 300 eggs a year. Rhode Island Reds, IGA Browns, Barred Rocks, all kinds of different chickens that lay 300 eggs a year. You've got to be careful and make sure you buy those chickens. Like whenever you're looking at chickens, you should make sure that you're buying one that's got high egg production, unless you're not concerned about that. Yeah. You just want fun chickens, kind of like we wanted just some eggs. Yeah. Especially because we already had the quail when we bought the chickens, so like we didn't need a ton of eggs all the time, but just a few chicken eggs every now and then was fun.
And I wasn't worried about high production in my chicken eggs. I just wanted the colors. So I got a blue layer, and I got a brown layer, and I got a white layer.
Yep. Also, by the time that they're laying at the 8 to 12 weeks, they're fully grown. And if you're wanting to use them for meat, at that point they can be harvested. Yep. To save a lot of people, including labor. I'm not going to go into the details of what it takes to harvest a quail, but I will say that it is so much easier than a chicken. I have witnessed both online, looking at videos, and a chicken is a lot more work. Obviously, you're getting a lot more meat. But I think that the quail also can fall into the category that we've talked about with rabbits in the past of basically being a biological refrigerator. They're enough meat for a meal for one person, and then you could go and get one every day and feed yourself every day on quail, and it would take you just a few minutes to be able to harvest them. If you're interested in knowing how, you can look that up. But even though they're small, they can be a great meat bird. Depending on how much you like to eat, you might need to take more. But they are laying so many eggs a day, they're all going to be fertile.
Yeah.
And you can hatch them out so quickly and raise them up to meat so quickly that it's really not that, like, you got to think, if you had 20 birds, like, you're not going to eat quail every day. So if you just took 1 day's worth of eggs, put those immediately in the incubator, in 18 days they hatch out, in 8 weeks they're ready to harvest, you're not going to harvest all 20 of them. Well, if you could freeze them, I guess.
Yeah.
But you're not going to eat a month's worth of quail in a month. Like, you're not going to probably eat quail every day unless you really had to.
Yeah.
But you just could have as many quail as you wanted to. I mean, you could have hundreds of quail and it really not that big of a deal.
Which, pretty sure, one of the people we know from church, they've got hundreds.
Yeah, at this point, I don't know what the man's doing.
Yeah.
I don't know how much they're eating or selling, or like what their plan is. I haven't asked him because, like, he also got a ton of rabbits, and so I don't.
He got a ton of rabbits.
Remember, he said he traded his ducks for like a bunch of rabbits. I don't.
Now I remember.
Yeah, that was
kind of check in
weird.
on that. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, you sent me the thing today. I thought you were going to be bringing home a rabbit. I was like, okay, I'm down with this.
If they would have posted if there was a cost or something involved, we might have had another rabbit.
I'd say, I don't know. You'd have to ask
I don't know.
them. But they had all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But no, they could be a great meat bird, and they're a very healthy option. They're a good meat. They're lean. They've got good amount of protein in them, just like their eggs do. And my understanding is that they taste really good. I mean, people hunt quail for a reason, right? Like, they want quail. I think, in my mind, personally, as somebody who like grew up raising animals, but not like harvesting their own animals, that going hunting and shooting the quail would be much easier on me than walking up and just having to, take it out.
Well, you've built a relationship with these.
Well, I just feel like if I was walking out there and shooting them, I think it would be easier. But you don't.
You have to get up and close and personal.
Yeah, like I don't think I'm gonna walk outside in the backyard and shoot a quail. But if I was hunting, had a dog flush it and all that stuff, it'd be a lot easier to do than to walk out there, pick it up, and have to go.
Like, you're going today. It's not the look at the draw of what one walks by. But you feel like the Undertaker, right? But the Grim Reaper's coming.
I mean, you'd be doing that with males, especially, and so.
Yeah, which is what that person that we know from church who's raising them, he's been calling his males, from my understanding.
Yeah, that's what they told me. They had called a bunch of males because they were fighting too. And that's the thing. It's like the males will fight. Now, that's the difference is how you buy your quail. You can buy hatching eggs. You can buy young chicks, which will require the extra heat source. Or you can buy them about 6 weeks old a lot of times. So you can buy juveniles. And maybe I've seen adult quail for sale on Craigslist. Really, you can buy quail at any age, just like you pretty much can chickens. Yeah. But if you hatch your own or you buy them as juveniles, they're not going to be able to be sexed because they're also, you're not buying these like you do at Tractor Supply or something like that where they're being DNA sexed and all those things. So
this is just by someone who knows what they're looking for.
So you could end up with an off ratio, and that means that you're going to have to do something with those males, which is something to consider. You could just let them go if you're that kind of person. They're not going to live long, but you could just do that. You could separate them. We actually do have 3 white males living together, and they've lived together this whole time, and they've not had issues. So
there may have been a little bit of a something recently with them because I went down there and one of them had a little bit of a scratch, but he could have jumped him up to his head because those white ones, they like to jump.
Ever since I moved them, because we swapped around where they were in the hutch when we took it down to clean it one time, and ever since then they've been like super flighty every time you go down there. But I don't know. I
had 2 jump out on me today when I went down to feed them.
So that's something I wanted to mention, and it reminds me. So chickens are smart, and chickens are fast, and like that's why they talk about like trying to catch a chicken. It's impossible. Like that's why Rocky. That's actually a scene in Rocky. Is his part of his training is trying to catch the chicken. Chickens are incredibly fast and agile. Yeah. Unless it's a Polish, and then they can't see you behind them, and so those are lifesavers. But most every other chicken is super fast, and they want to get out of that run, and they're going to look for ways. And so when you get chickens, if you've never had chickens before, when you get them and you build their enclosure, unless you've built in like the fortified whole thing that's expensive and most of us aren't going to do. Yeah. You're going to need to watch them because they are going to look for ways to get over the fence. Yep. So ours have looked for ways, and we've pretty much eliminated all those ways. Now we think, but they can and they will get out. Thankfully, chickens do come home to
Yeah.
roost, so they'll probably.
I was so scared that one day.
Yeah, when Houdini escaped, but hence the name.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to catch a chicken, it is not easy.
No.
And they don't come to you when called unless
No.
you've worked really extensively, I guess, with them, where
Yeah.
they have built a good relationship with you. But I say all that to say that chickens will try to escape, and they don't care about property lines, and they will be in your neighbor's yard.
Yeah.
Quail will try to escape.
Mhm.
I mean, like she just mentioned,
Yeah.
2 of them escaped on her. I've had multiple escape on me. I've personally not had an issue catching them. The dog has helped me once by like rolling one.
Yeah.
But I've not had an issue catching them and putting them just right back in the thing.
Mhm.
They're easy to pick up, to grab. They
Yeah.
can't fly very far.
They jumped out of the coop, landed, and I just reached down, grabbed it, and put it back in.
A lot of times they get out and they're just scared. And they're like, and so you just pick them up and you put them back in, like you were saying. But chickens aren't the same way as that. And so if the chicken gets out, it's a pain. And hopefully they'll come back at the end of the night. But the thing is if you've got a run like we have now, because we didn't have this whenever Houdini escaped, when we first got her.
It wasn't quite as fortified.
Well, we didn't have the fence up yet,
Yeah.
because we were hoping that the fence of the yard would help, which that was a mistake. We can get into another day. But once we got the fence, they started standing up on the coop to look out. And so I immediately had to remedy that, and I put out some deer net over to where they just couldn't get on there and then fly out.
Yeah.
But the thing is they can't fly out of our fence. Our fence is 5 foot, I think.
Yeah.
And they couldn't fly out of our fence without first getting on the coop.
Yeah.
But if they got on the coop, they could get out. They're going to try to come home, but they're not going to be able to get back over because they can't. There's nothing to jump on.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's something you have to consider is like, yeah, chickens come back to roost, but if they can't get in, then they're not going to come back. And then once they've slept somewhere else, basically that first night, you're not getting them back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can't. But it's something to keep in mind is that the quail are a lot easier to capture if you need to.
And like we've had a quail slip through our normal fence before we moved them into the chicken run, and you were able. I guess the fence is actually 4 foot because you stepped over the fence.
No, our fence around the house is 4 foot.
Yeah.
But the fence in the chicken run is 5 foot.
Yes, it is. Okay. But before we moved them into the chicken run, one of them popped out through the fence and was around a tree stump on the other side, and you just stepped over and grabbed it. Like, they're not going to get very far.
No.
They're just not.
Mm-mm.
They're not, it's not like a chicken.
Because the quail is like a brush bird. And so that's the reason we don't have them in Tennessee a whole lot anymore, is because we just don't have the kind of land, like a grassland or something like that. And so quail will run when flushed, but basically if they're afraid, they're going to just try to hide until you get very close to them, which is why people use dogs to hunt them.
Yeah.
And then they will flush out. But that's kind of the difference with quail. All in all, though, I think we pretty much covered all my subjects. Really, I just believe that everyone should have quail. They're too easy. And that could be anybody, as far as like people who, want to be farmers, want to grow their own food, care about where their own food comes from. But at the same time, like, we've had some very uncertain times recently. And we don't know what the future holds, what could be next. And there's people who believe that there could be massive food shortages. And so I would even venture to say that I think that like everybody should consider having certain animals. In my heart, that would be rabbits and quail, both animals that would be difficult for a lot of people to eat the meat of if they had to, but both animals that provide such great dividends with such little input that I think that almost anybody could have quail, whether they're big into animals or not. Yeah. You could have your own quail in your own backyard, minimal input, and have eggs every day, all summer long. And then you could store up those eggs.
Through various, like there's a lot of different ways.
Freeze drying, water glassing. There's just so many different methods that you could do to store eggs, that you could have eggs year round from your own animals with so little work that I just don't see why everybody doesn't have quail. Probably because not everybody knows about quail. But I think that they may not be the best animal for like commercial production, but that doesn't mean that they can't be the best animal in your backyard.
I'm a little surprised your dad hasn't jumped the quail train yet.
Yeah, he's up and down like I am. That's where I get that from. So he's in and out really fast.
Because there for a minute, your mom was pretty scared he's going to come home with a flock of chickens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes sense where they live at, but But I think that quail are one of the best things you can add, especially like you said, if you already have a farm, but you're always adding diversity. Quail are a great way to add diversity,
Mm-hmm.
especially like if you eat a bunch of chicken eggs and you have quail too, then you're having both kind of eggs.
Mm-hmm.
They're, I don't know. I don't see a reason why you wouldn't have quail.
Yeah.
Like they're just,
it's cheap to get into, like considerably.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, it is, and they don't really cost too much to feed. I mean, they're tiny little birds. The 50-pound bag of feed lasts forever for them. And they're not super smelly. I mean, they're not crazy noisy. The taste of the eggs is outstanding.
Yeah. So I think that there's so many good reasons you can have quail. And I think that's really going to finish us out. And so my last point is that quail are biblical. Quail are a very important bird because they're the bird that God provided to the Israelites in the wilderness after they escaped from Egypt. And so you know that they have to be, immensely great for you because he gave them quail and manna. So they had protein and they had carbs. They were the only sources that they needed to cross a desert. And that's what God chose to keep his people. So of course, I'm going to end it with some of those verses like that. Exodus 16:13. So it came about at evening, the quails came up and covered the camp, and in the morning there was a layer of dew around the camp. Numbers 11:31-32. Now there went forth a wind from the Lord, and it brought quail from the sea, and let them fall beside the camp about a day's journey on the side, and a day's journey on the other side, all around the camp, and about 2 cubits deep on the surface of the ground. The people spent all day and all night, and the next day, and gathered the quail. He who gathered the least gathered 10 homers, and they spread them out for themselves all around the camp. And finally, Psalm 105:40, which is talking about giving praise to God for his abundant mercy and grace, says, they asked, and he brought quail and satisfied them with the bread from heaven. If you didn't have enough reasons to get quail, they are in the Bible, they're biblical, and they're God's protein source.
They're God sent.
Yeah.
Literally.
God sent them to his people to consume. What better animal is there for us to consider?
Yeah.
Than a quail. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and God bless.
God bless.